is this?
Everybody poops sometimes.
Give us the smother.
Wake up, sweetness.
Your first time should be more than special.
I mean, good Lord, Gemma. When a man and a woman, in this case, really, really love each other, what happens is they fuck.
Ooh, hello?
Oh, dang it, I lost my fish. This next word almost sounds like Quidditch. Quidditch milade Diana Agosiagath an Fiedian.
As much as I love fucking you, sweetness, we stared into each other's eyes whilst I moaned in ecstasy.
Having consumed half of the bourbon, I keep saying bourbon. You know, every time I mess up on a word, Stunt Mama just shows up.
She had her seductive smile on her lips.
I said we couldn't have sex. I didn't say anything about everything else. Ew. Happy to help. Biatch.
You are the spark of light in the vastness of my night. His note, like a finality to a beautiful, breathtaking song.
Good evening. Hello. I made a new video. I did. And it took me a minute to get all those clips. But I thought it was fun. I also made a new trailer, so when I'm offline, there's a new trailer. So that's fun too. Good evening. Hi, Mama House Gaming. How are you? Said in my best Dracula voice. Good evening. Welcome. Come, sit down. What if Dracula was like just good old Southern American? Good evening. Y'all come and sit down. I swear I've had no alcohol. Okay. Oh God, no. Just no. Well, it could be interesting. And B's here. Hi, B. Hope you had a great week so far. You know, it's had its ups and downs, but it's been okay. Nothing, nothing too crazy. Normally we wouldn't be here tonight, again, like last week, but basketball has taken over one more Thursday evening. There's only 3 home games left tomorrow night, and then 2 Sunday early afternoons. So after that, it's business as usual. Same here. Not mad about it. Yeah. Life of a parent, fun times. It's a thing. It is a thing. Okay. And I'll say this before stream's over, and maybe even in the middle, if I can remember. But, this book right here, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I will not be reading it on stream because that would be against the rules. But I am borrowing a friend's Discord. And after stream tonight, we are going to crack open that book and read it in Discord. So if you want to join in and listen on that, much more cozy living room style because we're all going to be in a voice chat together, you know, that kind of thing. Exclamation fourth will get you the Discord link. And it will be in the event chat. As soon as the stream's done and we've rated out and I've got my videos up, so it'll be like, you know, a few minutes, but enough chance and, you know, enough time to go and get a drink, go to the bathroom, whatever you want to do. And then we're going to read for a little bit in Discord of that book. So there you go. Let's see. I remember when I was a child wishing I could be an adult so no one dictated what I do. Until jobs and kids. Yeah, exactly. The deception of being an adult. It's such an amazing lie. How I miss being young again. But that's the problem. I only want to be young again if I can have the knowledge of what I have now. Otherwise, I'm just young and dumb. I want to be young and less dumb. Hi, Meek. As a nanny, I hear you completely. 3 kids, and they all do multiple sports. Oof. It's rough. Yes, it is. I like myself more than I used to, right? It's weird. With time comes age, and with age comes clarity. But with clarity comes regret. Well, thanks for coming. Just kidding. We haven't even started. Wrinkles and gray hair. Yeah, I got a couple of those. Yep, don't worry. Every time I get my hair cut, I am reminded of the gray. I was like, what? Hi, Mitchell, by the way. I don't know if I said hi. Let me show you your Valentine. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Happy romance. I thought I would give you all a box of chocolates. If there's a caramel one, please save it for me. I love caramel. So, if you want to do a box of chocolates puzzle, go for it. Knock yourselves out. In the meantime, we're going to read a book. I've got my water. I've got my tea. I've got all of you lovely people. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Let me just, deal with this real quick. Get all that set up. Okay, I think we're good. The music is very loud in my head. Just gonna turn that down a smidge. Just a smidge. Let's see. We're on chapter 13. Did I put chapter 12? I did. Oops. I meant to put chapter 13. My bad. Let's update that. Okay, done. So yes, as the go live notification obviously displayed on screen, do not resubscribe. Don't do it. I haven't picked the exact date yet, but in March, because I know some people have subbed this month. So probably, hold on. We're gonna figure this out right now, actually, because it's gonna bug me. And why not do it while we're all here together? Perfect. Yep. So Thursday the 14th is basically the middle of March. It's 1 month from now. And on that day, I'm going to remove affiliate status. I'm even going to put an event in my calendar to remind me to do it, so that when we stream that night, it will be an unaffiliated stream. Okay? We are cutting the cord. So please don't resubscribe. Don't gift any subs. If you feel so inclined and you can't help but click on things, that's fine, but do it either in bits or just as a direct, donation through PayPal. I will always be grateful. Also know that it is never required. Ever. I can't stress that enough. I am here because I want to be. I'm not here because I need you to financially support me. I hope that makes sense. I'm here because I want to hang out with you. I'm here because I like to read to you. It is something that I enjoy doing for myself just as much as doing it for you. Don't let the financials get in the way. It's not worth it. And so I am cutting the cord from Twitch in that regard. And if people want to help, like all these books that I have that I read, I buy all the copies. I don't ask for copies from the authors. I buy them all myself. So anytime that you support me in that way, the money basically goes back to that. So thank you. That was my moment. I'm not here for you to financial support me either. Good. Glad we got that settled. All right, let me clear my throat. And we'll get into the chapter. Let's see. We're on page 97. That's where we're starting. Chapter 13. And it's titled Wherever You Will Go. Whatever that means. I guess we're going to find out. So far, in all of the chapters, the title of the chapter has been embedded somewhere in the text. So I have every confidence that this will be the same. All right. Is everybody ready? Do you have your drink? Nice blanket to wrap up in, perhaps? Little snack on the side. Okay. Chapter 13. Wherever you will go. I added a few more conditions to the notes, and as much as we wanted to order more wine, neither of us could afford it. Especially when we could nip into the local supermarket and buy 3 bottles for the price of 1 in the restaurant. And that's precisely what we did. Been there. We drank wine and made love for hours, eventually falling into drunken slumbers. Our bargain concluded. Well, almost concluded. I feared that when I awoke next, I'd be back on the dock's bed with her hovering nearby, waiting to interrogate me. But I didn't. I woke up with my beautiful girlfriend lying I think that's supposed to be half naked, but the naked part was missing. Half in the bed. Oh, no, that's not. Never mind. Jeez, just keep reading the sentence, Atkinson. I woke up with my beautiful girlfriend lying half in the bed, half on the floor. Makes sense. Not that there was too much difference between the two, my bed being little more than a mattress on a shallow wooden frame. We see where your mind goes. You know what? Shush. I'm not ashamed. Do you know how many books I've read? Hey, Ash. What's up? We're just getting started on the first book. You're just in time. Mine did too, no judgment. Right. Where was I? The floor wasn't that much different either. Well, not considering all the dried and drying bodily fluids on the sheets. Yes, lurking and playing DVD. Awesome. I stared at her sleeping face for a few minutes, enjoying watching her while she didn't know. Her dark hair had fallen half across her cheek. However, I could still see her perfect nose, slightly turned up at the end. Her lips, still looking like they had lipstick perfectly applied. Impossible, given the amount she'd used them in the previous few hours. Her long eyelashes and highlighted cheekbones. Stunt Mama's mama. Hi. If you set out to design the perfect face, I was looking at it. But I was biased and in love. Even though we'd plowed through almost 4 bottles of wine, I only had a mild headache and a slight thirst. I forgot that the young me, the young everybody, seemed immune from hangovers. If I did that now, I'd probably not be able to move for 3 days and would need to drink the taps dry like the tiger from The Tiger That Came to Tea. Not all my literary subject matter had been gothic. I gently nudged Lucy with my foot. She mumbled something and rolled over, now entirely on the floor. I stepped over her and relieved my aching bladder in our fragrant bathroom. When I returned, she'd woken up and had pulled some fresh clothes from her bag. Are you not having a shower before you put clean clothes on? She blinked at me. You sound like my mum. Trust me, that's not good. When did you turn 40? I laughed. About 10 months ago. Yeah, don't do that, eh? Besides, I'm not having a shower in this place. I'll catch Ebola or something worse. COVID. What? Nothing. Just a virus nobody's heard of yet. That look again. Like those shares. Yeah, listen. It's just something one of the economic students told me about. Who knows, eh? Her expression showed me she didn't buy into my explanation, but she looked too weary to care. Plus, she'd achieved her objective much easier than expected, but that's hindsight and perspective for you. She pulled on her jeans and trainers. Let's get some breakfast. There's a cafe on the corner, isn't there? Yep, something fried and bad for you. I smiled. We've all got to die of something, she laughed, pulling me out of the flat. Just not in a car wreck in Miami, I hoped. We sat in comfortable silence and focused on eating. Lucy mopped up some egg yolk with a piece of toast, finished chewing, then asked, a note or two of concern in her voice. You sure you are okay about giving up this job? I nodded, my mouth full of sausage and fried egg. I gulped it down. Totally. I'd have hated it. Doubt I'd have lasted 2 years. Why apply for it then? Plus, the last time I spoke to you, you were so enthusiastic about it. Good question. Then I remembered the employee manual on the floor bedside. Wow, I can read. On the floor beside the bed. I read through all the HR shit they sent me, and it's far too rigid a regime. Like being in the army. Lucy frowned. her spider sense tingling again, I expect. I had to remember that she knew me better than anyone in the world, yet despite that, still loved me. That old self-hate still survived inside my 40-year-old brain, trickling poison into my psyche. Anyway, if I did that, I'd always wonder, what if, wouldn't I? You really should use your degree properly. Are you sure you wouldn't like to try teaching? I shook my head vigorously, trying to get high school kids to appreciate Shakespeare, Dickens, and Hemingway. No thanks. Well, as long as you don't blame me for giving up this opportunity. I smiled. I won't, sweetie. I really won't. What are you going to do when we get back? I haven't thought about it. I've made a show reel that I'm supposed to send to producers and things, but I've not done any of that because I'm now going away with you. I'll maybe do something with it when I get back. Loads of the folk from my course are attending auditions in the West End, but I'm still unsure what I want to do. Lucy had played the piano from an early age. I remember watching her when I used to go to her house for a playdate. Squished up beside her on the padded piano seat, memorized as she coaxed swirling melodic magic from the keys. Supernatural writer, hi. How are you? How was your workout this morning? I saw you getting your sweat on. Looked like a great time. Minus the sweat. I hadn't seen her play for over a decade. She must be fantastic by now. That song you sent me was incredible. Why not become a songwriter? Just like that, she laughed. I wish. I can play okay, but songwriting is changing. It's become much more producer focused with the growth of DAWs. DAWs? I asked, puzzled. Lucy smiled. DAWS. She spelt it out for me. Digital audio workstations, computerized musical software. It'll revolutionize music and how it's written and produced. We did a lot of that in our final year. I didn't understand what she'd said, and it didn't seem to explain why she couldn't write songs, but it didn't seem important at that point. She finished her coffee and announced, I need to go home today, and by home, I mean home to my mum, not London. My London days are behind me for a while, but no doubt I'll end up back there, seeing as it's the centre of the universe for the arts. I should spend a few days with her before we head off. Plus, we need to organise tickets and stuff. How much money do you have? I pretended to do a calculation in my head, counted some numbers out on my fingers, and eventually said, let me see if I include that and the money from there and the cash in the box. It'll add up to about £12.50. Lucy giggled. I thought as much. What about your flat deposit? Well, assuming they give me anything back, considering the state the place is in, that's 600 max. But I'll need that for the next place. Worry about that later. That'll at least get your plane ticket. I've saved about £3 mainly from money my mum gave me, but I didn't spend. If I add that to my flat deposit and throw your money in, that gives us about £4,500. Not a fortune, but it'll get us somewhere and pay for budget hotels. Plus, we can get bar jobs and stuff as we go along. It's enough. I can't let you pay for me. Of course you can. You can pay it back when we get home, as you're likely to get a proper job, and I'll end up waitressing and waiting for auditions. I'm under no illusions of how hard it will be, so I need to do this. Are you not going home too? I suppose Grumpy Pants works on shore now, but he's considering emigrating to Australia to live with his brother. He says I don't need him anymore. You're all grown up, she said in a baby voice, smiling. I am. But I never really needed him, did I? She sighed. I suppose not. I'll pack up my things and get out of your hair by lunchtime, okay? It's not okay. I could feel tears pricking the corners of my eyes. Her eyes were liquid too. I need you now, she whispered. I became instantly hard. Harder than I'd been in Miss Baxter's class all those years ago. The clocks are so pretty. Thank you. I did not draw them myself. But someone on Etsy did, and I appreciated it. Later, before she slipped out of bed, and before this version of me slipped away forever, I asked the question I'd been waiting to ask all morning and most of last night, until the wine pushed it toward the back of my mind. There's something you're holding back, Lucy. Before you leave me again, even though it's only for a week or less, I need to know what it is. She lay back on the pillow, turned, faced me, and pushed her forehead onto mine like she'd done all those years ago on my last day of high school. I don't want to talk about it. I know. But I need to know. You don't need to know. You just want to know. And I want to tell you, but I don't know how. I could feel a circle of anxiety forming in my stomach, a whirlpool of acidic worry beginning to spin into a frenzy of unrest. It must be something terrible. What happened? I whispered. Tears formed in her eyes, then slowly spilt out and fell onto my cheek and the pillow. I shared her tears. How intimate was that? Her breath mingled with mine, and she said quietly, "A few months after we split up, I did something stupid with someone I didn't like. I had unprotected sex and ended up pregnant." Who? The Liam guy? No. An older guy. A lecturer. I know. So stupid. He wasn't interested in anything long term. Besides, he was married and... Oh, Sam. I had an abortion. It was so awful. I didn't move or say anything, trying to figure it out, but I couldn't. As a man, I didn't possess the emotional intelligence. How did they do it? I mean, is it painful? I knew nothing about abortions. She shook her head. No, you just take some tablets and it's done if it's early enough, just like a bad period. It's just the mental side of it, you know? I didn't know. How could I? I just held her tight as she cried. I cried too, for many reasons and for many people, most of them different versions of me and her that I'd known. I love you, Lucy. She sniffled. I love you too. We drifted off to sleep, our foreheads pressed together, skin to skin, erotic, comforting, natural, and beautiful. We fitted so well together, physically and mentally. I awoke bewildered and distraught to find myself back in Collis Lab 4. The doc and Nurse Peyton were peering at me. They did the usual checks and asked me some banal questions. I answered the best I could. "Doc, I'm sorry," I said eventually. "I'm always a little confused after these sessions, and my mind usually needs a few hours to settle." I gave her a vague version of meeting up in a dream with Lucy at university, but didn't elaborate. After about half an hour of interrogation, she let me return to my room. I sat on my bed with my personal rain cloud floating above my head. I should have returned from this timeline bouncing around the room with elation. I'd been with Lucy and I'd saved her from dying. I hoped. The memories from this version of my life had yet to drop into my head, so it remained a mystery. But something troubled and dug its nails into the soft, vulnerable tissue at the back of my mind. The feeling of lying naked, warm, and loved up and lingered, and I tried to bask in its glory. As I lay on the bed, I realized my body had morphed again. Not back to the humongous, but no longer skinny. I had muscles, six-pack abs, and bulging biceps. I'd become a gym bunny. I'm sorry, a what? Gym bunny? Witchy, hi Witchy. Waves wildly and falls over. Love the new screen? Thank you. I bought it myself on Etsy. Are you going to stick around for the fourth wing reading afterwards, Witchy? And by stick around, I mean meet us in Discord. You love Etsy? Me too. Mr. Thump, I've got you up, sir. I'll try, but I have the kids to take to bed soon. I understand. I get it. We're not going to start in Discord until after this stream is done, so it's probably another hour to an hour and a half. The other timelines had faded further. The original version of Fat Me waiting in the grubby flat for the bailiffs had gone completely. Only the notes I'd taken remained. There's a high likelihood I'll end up sound asleep. Perfect. On the table in front of the mirror sat a MacBook and a set of car keys. I picked them up. Ford. But I worked out today. An actual workout. Kind of proud of myself. Good for you. That's awesome. Heck yeah. One step at a time, Witchy. That's amazing. Good for you. I owned a car. What? Super. Did you not read the notification? Hi, Super. How you doing? Thank you for the 17 months. I appreciate you. I did, but you can't tell me what to do. That's technically true. Just keep in mind, on March 14th, I am disconnecting my affiliate status. But I will put that on my stream next time. We just figured out the date today. But thank you, sir. I appreciate you. I really do. We're just about finished with this chapter, so bear with me a moment. Let's see. I owned a car. A step up from my previous timelines. Attached to the car keys were other keys. House keys, flat keys, aka apartment. I still didn't remember. Then the missing jigsaw parts of my memory plink-plonked into place like a crazy game of Connect 4. As they landed, I gasped, groaned, and finally howled as my poor, tortured soul once more screamed to the heavens for release. Now we're at the end of the chapter. That was chapter 13. All good. I'm going down with the affiliate ship. Nice. Well, the ship has officially set sail. It will begin the burning ritual in 1 month's time. Or has the burning ritual began and it takes a month to fully I don't know. I'm not going to try and figure that one out. That's an analogy that we don't need. It's a slow burn. Yeah. Feel the burn, man. Hey, Super. While you're here, Friday nights, I think I mentioned to you an IRL buddy of mine that now has a copy of Helldiver 2. We're going to be playing on Friday. If you want to join, it'd be great to have you. I think we're starting at 6 p.m. my time, so like an hour and a half ago. Like, he's brand new to it. He's done the tutorial part, but that's it. Ooh, hot and delicious. Hell yeah, I'd love to. Sweet. We'll probably meet in the Bros Discord, so I'll give him a link. Let me tell the family to F off. Yeah, please. Please say it like that and record yourself doing it too, if you don't mind. I want to see the footage. That'd be fantastic. That TikTok sensation right there. That's some good tea. Don't forget, Fourth Wing in Stunt Mama's Discord right after the stream. It's got the fancy version. It's limited edition. There's bonus content in here somewhere. Yes, I know. I know you are. Stunt Papa invited me earlier, since G4P was so nice in inviting me while he was playing this morning. It's fine. I'm not bitter. I wasn't able to play because I was busy doing things with my job. But, you know, it's just the thought that counts. I'm fine. But yeah, I'm not crying. I'm reading a book. Damn mess, that's right. No, but have a great time. Work wanted you to work and not play? I know. It's freaking rude. I mean, what kind of country are we in where your employers expect you to do something for the paycheck they give you? I mean, what are our kids growing up in right now? What am I supposed to tell my son? I'm really sorry, buddy, but you're gonna have to actually work when you go there. What kind of a crock is that? Anyway. Whatever. What are you gonna do? You know what I say to that? I'm on the edge of my seat here, buddy. Couldn't have said it any better myself. Well done. All right, if you don't mind, we have a book to read. So go kill some bugs in the not Starship Trooper game. And we'll read, all right? That scared me. Boop. How's B, how is Loverboy doing these days? I haven't talked to him much lately. Since we're on the subject of work and stuff. Thank you for the lurk, Super. I'm not going to say his name, obviously, for the safety and protection of those in real life. While you're typing, I will keep reading, because we're on chapter 14, page 105. This one's called Summer Smile. Oh, you wrote a paragraph. Haha. He is the opposite of that. I've had to explain 5 times today why I don't believe in Valentine's Day, and he doesn't either. Like we can appreciate each other every day as we do. Exactly. He is busy. Yeah, I bet he is. I bet he is. Well, tell him I said hello. And I'll keep reading. Summer Smile, chapter 14. Time, as a wise man once pointed out, is what stops everything from happening all at once. Yeah, okay. The problem with new memories is that you don't get the time and space that real memories accumulated over time afford. As they drop in, they produce surprise, unguarded, excuse me, unguarded pain and pleasure like a series of electric shocks. This time, more than any of the others, their effect on me felt greater. Raw and intense, probably because the changes I had wrought were more pronounced. Bonus memory: Lucy didn't die in Miami. We had a ball, cycling through jungle villages in Vietnam. The hedonistic cities of... fuck it. I always like saying the name of that town. It's P-H-U-K-E-T. Excuse me, my gosh. Pattaya and the craziness of Bangkok. Then we enjoyed the peace and tranquility of southeast Cambodia, followed by the relatively civilized time we had in Melbourne, working in a bar for 4 weeks to earn enough money to get back home. I waited tables, and Lucy played the grand piano every evening, dressed in a ball gown with a ridiculous tiara perched on her head. One evening, Lucy sang one of her original songs that summed up her feelings about her time in Australia, called Summer Smile. It went down a storm with the locals. She played it every evening after that. We'd grown as people and as a couple. During our last evening in Melbourne, emotions were running high. Our time together with no responsibilities and no real cares apart from where to eat, sleep, and make love was nearing an end. We sat in a small restaurant overlooking the St. Kilda sea baths. I didn't want to go home. I didn't want reality to interfere with our wonderful dream. As we sipped ice-cold Cobbliss? Cobbliss? Holding hands, they sipped on something. I gazed at my beautiful girl's tan face and said, Lucy, I love you more than life itself. More than anything. Will you marry me? Tears slid down her face. Happy tears, I hoped, as she stared deep into my eyes. Chablis. It's spelled Chablis, but it's pronounced Chablis. Of course it is. The English language, I swear, it's the most screwed up language anyone knows about. Anyway, carrying on. She nodded. Of course I'll marry you. Why wouldn't I? On that warm September evening, I'd become the happiest person in the universe. No doubts, no concerns, just pure, unsullied joy. Back home a week later, reality set in. It's French, of course it is. Of course it's French. Of course. Chablis. Just like that. I'm in a weird mood tonight. I had to go back and live with my dad in his small flat and Lucy with her mum. Both parents were happy for us, but at that point, we didn't have two beans to rub together, and getting married seemed like a distant fantasy. Another thing. Britain smelled terrible. I wish we'd stayed in Australia. So clean and organized compared to home. Plus, Oz had space. Britain didn't. Well, at least my part of Wigan didn't. Okay, side note, by the way. I had suspicions earlier on, but I didn't want to say anything. Wigan... Gosh, my throat. The town of Wigan was super close. I mean, 5 minutes in the car from where I lived in the UK. So, that's cool. Never thought I'd read a book on this stream talking about a town that I could go visit myself. Anyway, carrying on. Just a little bit of excitement there. Our street was filled with 1930s tiny terraced houses bumped up against one another with dingy backyards and overflowing bins. The refuse collection strike being the main cause of the stink. Every night of the last 3 months, I'd fallen asleep entwined in Lucy's arms. Now I squirmed in a small single bed with a lumpy mattress. Welcome to life, buddy. I had to take a job, any job to be near Lucy, to try and save some money to get a place. I answered a vacancy for a counter staff role in a Manchester bookmaker. Just a stopgap. I told myself. I might have said that once before, but I couldn't be entirely sure. Bookmakers seem to be another common thread too. Weird how things repeat themselves. Lucy found a job waitressing in a restaurant, long hours, exhausting work with minimum wage. I hardly saw her. Talk about crashing down to reality. We settled into our new restricted lives. Lucy had a few auditions in London for West End roles, but they didn't turn into anything. I need to be there when stuff comes up, she explained. Half the time, open auditions only get advertised on the day or the day before, and I can't get there on time. I could see the frustration building. 4 years at Guildhall to work in a restaurant seemed like such a waste of her gift. Not that I'd been using my degree either, checking betting slips and emptying bins. My dad had sold the flat, and I'd soon be homeless. If we pooled our resources, we might just be able to rent a flat in London. Nowhere nice, but somewhere where we could be together again. Lucy eventually found a place near Catford, described as a studio flat consisting of one large room and a separate bathroom, containing a full-size bath. Luxury indeed. We moved in a month later. I transferred from the bookies in Manchester to a branch just off of Lewisham High Street, and Lucy found a job waiting tables in a bistro pub called Angelo's in Greenwich. We were all set. I could tell Lucy wasn't happy being back in London. But what choice did she have? What choice did we have? One rare evening when neither of us were working, we sat sharing a bottle of wine, taking stock of our lives. It's hard to be objective when you're both permanently knackered. That's tired. Which is like me all the time. My hours were stupid. Lucy's were worse. But she also had to try and squeeze in auditions between her shifts. The nights when we used to fall asleep entwined in each other's arms felt like a distant memory. Lucy also objected that any spare money we had I'd sunk into shares of companies that had yet to hit anyone's radar in a big way. I pulled myself from the past for a moment to consider something. I'd been watching my memories play like a movie on Netflix. I stopped and went back in my head to the days before we went traveling. The younger me seemed to have no recollection of being invaded by the older me, which I couldn't quite compute. It felt like, in the previous times when I'd intervened in the shittiest bits of my life, the me of the time just accepted it and moved on. Whilst I could remember the high school intervention, and obviously still fresh in my mind and my loins, if I'm being honest, the day Lucy came to my flat in Edinburgh, there remained no residual clue that the older me had ever been there. If I wasn't mad already, and I'd started having doubts, this would get me there. PDQ. I don't know what that means. Not a clue. I remember reading a quote in my studies that said, "All were as is memories." It felt very relevant. I needed a break from thinking and pottered out of my room into the car park. Bleeped the key fob and watched as the lights in the door locks on a white Ford Focus lit up and popped up, respectively. I opened the driver's door and sat in the seat. It felt familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. I had some new memories of driving this car and also of living in a flat in Solihull, that by some miracle seemed to be mine, supported by a small mortgage. Exactly how I had ended up living in Birmingham again escaped me at that point. I felt like I'd drifted into an asylum, or maybe I'd never left. A few days ago, according to my notebook, which I had no reason to disbelieve, I had been evicted from a dirty, rented flat, had been pushing 20 stone and didn't have a penny. My childhood sweetheart, for lack of a better description, had been killed in Miami, not that I knew that at the time, and a social worker had taken pity on me and got me into a program to try and help me with my depression. My notes also said I once tried to kill myself, but I had no recollection of how. Oh, and I used to stink. In this timeline, I'd ended up married to Lisa again. It felt like a failure, more for Lisa than for me. I could feel the disappointment in my soul. but it seemed that I ended up with her no matter what I did. I wondered what she'd done in a previous life to deserve me. Lucy and my fate made me want to scream, so I refused to go there yet. I wanted to know about the me of that... Or wait, what? I wanted to know about the me of today first. Plus, I'd realized something. The time I spent in the past didn't marry up with the time in the present/future or whatever now was or is. I'd spent around 36 hours with Lucy in my stinky student flat, but that only translated to 3 or 4 hours here. I couldn't quite get my head around that. I returned to my room and powered up the MacBook. By osmosis, I assume I knew the password and the password to dozens of other things I'd never owned or possessed before. An online share portfolio icon blinked on the desktop, and beside it was an online bank account. I checked the bank account first, and it had a healthy balance. I had to check the share account 3 times before I could understand them. The total value of shares spread across a portfolio of investments sat at a few pennies of £100,000. Well, shag me backwards with a hairbrush. And that's the end of the chapter. I've never heard that expression before. Shag me backwards with a hairbrush. There you go. I remember, well, I'll be a monkey's uncle. But that was about it. So, B and Stepmama's mama, next time something interesting happens or something unexpected with your, family or whatever, please say that line. I want to know what happens right after you say it. Well, shag me backwards with a hairbrush. Oh, so good. It definitely gets some looks. That's why I want you to do it. Please. Please. Try and have your phone on somewhere close by, just kind of, catching the moment. And just be straight-faced about it. Like, don't smile, don't do it like you're expecting a response. Just make it look as natural as possible. Like it's a normal, everyday thing that you would say. Just nothing unusual here. Just shag me backwards with a hairbrush. And then I want to see the faces. I don't think I could do it. I would burst out laughing, but this is why I'm a voice actor and not a screen actor, because you've got to hold that straight face, You have a hard time keeping a straight face? Well, I especially want to know how your daughter is going to react. She's probably going to be like, Mom? Are you okay? Oh, God. So funny. She'll spit out her drink or something. So, how does our character end up with a really nice place to live and a very suitable car in this timeline? Not to mention the six-pack abs and the biceps. Am I right? Oh yeah. Like, how does that happen? It also seems like in each timeline that he comes back to, it's a little bit better than the last. Oh, and let's not forget the 100 grand in stock shares just sitting in his portfolio. How does that happen? First he was fat, then he got a little thinner. Now he's muscular and he's got some money and a car and a place to live. I mean, what's next? Is he gonna be a celebrity? I don't know. My neck is all kinds of stiff. Page 111 is where we're starting next. Don't forget, exclamation point future. If you want to know more about this book or the author and other such writings of his. Chapter 15 is called All Messed Up. Sounds interesting. What is all messed up? Who is all messed up and why? Maybe we'll find out. Here we go. I joined the other residents for dinner, and none of them seemed to have changed or been changed by my experiences. I didn't know if I should be surprised at this or not. Angus still talked about shit. Ted still mumbled about Darwin and smacked himself on the head regularly, and Molly still didn't make eye contact. It was weird to think that none of them had changed, and yet my life had altered beyond all recognition since coming here, and none of them knew or noticed. I'd also acquired a proper iPhone with a contract. I scrolled down my messages whilst munching on cheese and biscuits. Angus said, "That's rude, man." I smiled. I suppose it would be if anyone had been trying to make conversation, but we're still all sitting here like zombies, so I don't think it is. I carried on scrolling, looking for something from Lucy, not that I deserved any contact from her. I read a few texts from Hannah, my girlfriend. She'd sent me a pic of her sitting on her couch in her underwear, pushing up her boobs and pouting. Hannah and I were intimate. That memory had dropped in just before dinner. She is a lovely woman. I liked her. I didn't love her. Despite being wealthy, healthy, and, from what I could tell, living a decent life, I'd still ended up in Perry Flowers. After eating, Angus and I played pool for a while. Neither of us said much. Angus didn't seem very happy. I wondered what shit he'd been sharing today. I asked, "Have you noticed anything different about me since I've been here?" He peered at me from under his floppy fringe. Nope. I mean, physically or personality-wise? He stared at me. What are you on about? I smiled. Never mind. We carried on playing pool. I escaped to my room a few minutes after 7, opened the Mac and logged onto Facebook. I had hundreds of friends now. Not that I considered any of that real in the sense that I'd become popular. Most seemed to be acquaintances from school and university. I still had a smattering of Filipino would-be brides and a few other dubious contacts. I scrolled down them all. Lucy wasn't there. Not that I should be surprised by that. I found her easily enough. She wasn't married, but her status said in a relationship with Sandy. Sandy, a muscled rugby type, appeared in a few of her pics, usually with his arms around her waist, looking like the cat who had got the cream. Why shouldn't he? He undoubtedly had. I hoped he treated her better than I did. No kids that I could see. I wondered about that. Had she been too busy building her career to have any? Did she still harbor the guilt of the life she ended before it began all those years ago? Or did it just not happen to her? Questions I never know the answers to. I typed her name to Google and discovered her Wikipedia page. It listed all her major stage roles. She'd never crossed over to TV or films, and had spent her whole career to date on the stage. Not to be sniffed at, but not the level of fame I might have expected given her talent. Still, she'd looked happy on her Facebook page, though I struggled to remember a Facebook photo when someone didn't look happy. So that might not tell me the whole story. Whatever she'd achieved, it had been better than dying in Miami. Despite the pain I caused her, I had saved her life. Not that she'd ever know that. Rhino. What's up, sir? It's good to see you. How the heck are you? I lost my place. Oh, no, we're good. I found it. Doing good? Had a good day? Awesome. Glad to hear it. Good days are good. You know what I mean? It's in the title. Now that all this time had elapsed, maybe I should find her and try to explain the truth of what had been happening to me. Then I realized that there would only have ever been one timeline for her, and she'd never believe me. Nobody would. The straitjacket beckoned. I also had to remember the version of me that had screwed up. Didn't know what he'd screwed up, nor the number of chances he'd already got, or had, to get it right. He didn't understand any better. Could ignorance be an excuse? No, not really. But we all make mistakes and bad decisions. We're human. It's what we do. I switched off the computer, lay back on my bed, and let the painful memories wash over and through me. The recollection of our parting stabbed at me. Time to fully remember and embrace it, I supposed. I'd still been working in the betting shop, but Lucy had been successful in a few West End auditions, building up her profile through roles in smaller productions. Her break came when the female lead in the musical version of 50 Shades of Grey, don't ask, went down with tonsillitis. Lucy had been her understudy and stepped up, proved better than the original, and kept the part to the end of the run. Only 3 weeks, but I'd been surprised it ran that long. I'm sorry, 50 Shades of Grey, the musical. No. No. I don't, no. I don't think that's gonna happen. Get over here. I'm gonna tie you up. Nope, I don't think so. Moving on. It provided the springboard she needed. And after that, she began getting invited to auditions rather than fighting to get them. I remember the night she came home bouncing off the walls after landing the lead role in Oklahoma. I just got off work. Despite being exhausted, her enthusiasm and va-va-voom perked me up. We'd gone out to celebrate. Dinner at The Hobbit, an expensive-themed restaurant in Lewisham. And then into town for drinks and a club in Soho. For us back then, that was really pushing the boat out, believe me. Her days of waiting tables were over. I'd been over the moon for her and proud, so proud. She'd worked incredibly hard and suffered much disappointment. Sitting in an alcohol-fueled bubble in the club, she said, "We can get married now, Sam. Well, soon anyway." She glanced down at her crappy engagement ring. I know the tradition is to spend a month's wages on a ring, but if we'd done that, she might have got a nice ring. But we'd have ended up sleeping rough and dining out at some of London's finest soup kitchens. She didn't care. It was symbolic anyway. One day I'd buy her a beautiful ring when all the shares leapt into value, which didn't look like happening anytime soon at the stage in our lives. I wanted so much to be her husband. I'd have been so privileged that I'd never looked at another woman ever again. A few days later, on a rare evening at home together, Lucy decided to ruin everything. Well, in reality, I did that. But she started the ball rolling. "Sam, before we start planning our wedding properly, I need to tell you something. I don't want there to be any secrets between us." I sat up from my slouch on the couch. I didn't think we had any secrets, but her face had such a serious expression etched on it that it worried me. I started running through some possible scenarios. She'd been shagging the director of Oklahoma, but then I remembered the director's name, Brenda, and I don't think my fiancé had any lesbian tendencies. Maybe she'd started an affair with her stunningly handsome opposite number, David Hopkirk, but then Lucy had said he was so in love with himself that nobody had been good enough to bask in his aura, male, female, or any in between. It came from the past. Our past. She took my hand and put her forehead against mine, as she'd done so many times before, and said, "Sam, I know you won't take this well, but before you react, I need you to try and think about where we were and what we were doing at the time. Okay? I should have told you then, but I didn't have the courage." "What is it?" I whispered, my stomach churning. "Remember that? The abortion I had?" She gulped. I nodded. "It wasn't a lecturer that got me pregnant. It was you." Oh shit. I pulled back from her like the polarity of two magnets suddenly reversed. I tried to think it through, but it didn't make sense. I should have figured out the answer myself, but I asked, "Why?" She stared at me. Tears formed and trickled down the face I loved, which I'd adored for as long as I could remember. "We were so young, and I..." She paused and tried to compose herself. I watched as she swallowed a few times, trying to stem the flow of tears. "I didn't want to give up on my dream. I knew what you were like. You'd have wanted to keep it for us to be a family. I wasn't ready." The pieces fell into place one by one. "So, you didn't want to go away and experiment at all? You hurt me so much when you did that." "I know," Sam, and I spent so much time trying to think of another way of dealing with it, but I couldn't. I just needed some space. I felt guilty enough, and seeing your face would have just made it worse. Please forgive me. I did forgive her. Well, at least I said I did. But it changed things between us. Looking back now, I know it shouldn't have. We loved each other. Our love should have been stronger than that, but her success had begun to grate on me. Would that have happened if she'd never confessed? I don't know. Even now, that sounds muddy, muddled, and selfish. I have the luxury of knowing how my life played out without her. Back then, I didn't. I had changed my destiny and Lucy's by letting her have a life, but I didn't know that then either. Confusing or what? It took the wind out of my sails. I'd been ready to jack in the betting shop and try to do something where I could use my degree. A recruitment company had lined up some interviews for me with financial firms in the city, and I also had a meeting with a digital magazine based in Canary Wharf. Wharf? I didn't go to any of them. Hindsight is wonderful for pointing out the mistakes you've made in your life. It's not so good at pointing out what you got right. It's a harsh judge, even with the benefit of time travel. Basically, I blew it. On the second Friday of January, I'd gone out for a few beers after work. Lucy had been on a run of 12 straight performances, including 2 matinees, and we'd been like ships in the night. It had been like that for a while. None of that would have mattered without her confession. Now, for me, it did. Doug, the betting shop manager, had treated us all to cocktails and flaming sambucas on empty stomachs. One by one, everyone drifted away, leaving just Doug and me. We were the only two without someone waiting at home. Divorced Doug and a West End widower, as the other cast members' other halves called themselves. We went to a club, and after a while, Doug disappeared with some ditzy blonde. I'd been on the verge of going home when Gina, the daughter of one of our regular customers, spotted me. I knew her quite well by then. She often came into the shop begging us not to let her dad squander any more of his money on the horses. We eventually banned him from the shop, but I doubt it would have made any difference, as there were about 6 other bookies within walking distance of ours. Gina was easy on the eye. Blonde hair, electric blue eyes, and privately educated. She spoke with that kind of Keira Knightley accent that was just heaven to listen to. Now I could use the excuse that I'd been drunk, horny, stupid, tempted, all of them. But the real reason was that I was lonely and resentful. Resentful of Lucy's success, as small and as petty as that sounds, especially after all I'd done to encourage it. I slunk into our flat at 5 a.m., and Lucy instantly knew I'd cheated. She could tell. I don't know how. Probably just how I looked at her. She screamed, bawled, hit me, and did everything I'd expected her to do, yelling at me in Spanish, which she always did when she got furious. Of course, to the 23-year-old me, this had been the first time I'd let her down. But to the 40-year-old me, it was at least the third, and maybe more, as my memory of the previous timelines had become tenuous. Eventually, she calmed down, packed a bag of essentials, and said, "I'm going to stay with Camilla for a few days, and then I'll look for my own place. Don't contact me, Sam. I never want to see you again." Camilla? I didn't know Camilla unless she'd made a new friend in the royal family. But that summed up how much I've been involved in her life of late. Was that my fault for not making more of an effort? Or both our faults? Who knows? Whoever knows in situations like that. A few weeks later, she emailed me a song she'd written. Her way of coping with things, I guess. Titled All Messed Up. It was very apt. Later, she probably wished she'd never sent it. It only encouraged me. The anger and frustration built up, a catalyst to making many more poor decisions. Not attending my father's funeral. Being broke was not a valid excuse in this timeline. Marrying poor Lisa again, and then there was the stalking. Encouraged by her sending me the song, I had this forlorn hope we could fix things. Perhaps there would have been had I not acted like a crazed loon. One particular freezing February evening came to mind. There'd been a bitter wind blowing, biting and ripping at my jacket. I concealed myself in amongst the autograph hunters and the fame seekers at the stage door, all of whom hoped that a fleeting meeting or a smile from a performer will either 1. Rub off on them and and allow them to climb their own escalator to fame and fortune, or 2. Impress the actor, actress, performer, singer so much that they will fall instantly in love with them on eye contact. Yeah, I know. About as likely as me winning Boyfriend of the Year. The door opened, and a few of the cast emerged. I stood waiting for the autograph hunters to do their thing. Besides, Lucy hadn't appeared yet. I watched the usual scramble of books, pads, and occasionally a bare arm being scrawled on by pens. Then she emerged, standing at the door, her head facing inwards, talking to someone, her dark hair fluttering in the breeze. She turned, spotted me, and visibly wilted. This had been the 8th successive night I'd stood here and been ignored. Just as she went to turn and disappear back inside, I pushed through the pack and yelled, "Lucy, please don't leave me here again. I only want to talk. You won't talk to me. You don't answer your phone. I love you. Please, I want you back." That was the first time I got duffed up by security and arrested for trying to force my way into the theater. It wasn't the last. A fist in the face from a huge security man, followed by a police intervention, handcuffs, and a trip to the local NIC. That bitter winter evening gave me my first experience of being on the wrong side of the law, and my first taste of a police station at night. An alien landscape populated by drunks, working girls, and the few other assorted nutters like me. The booking sergeant undid my cuffs to allow me to sign the sheet. "A caution this time, son," he said to me. Calling me son felt incongruous. He wasn't much older than me. I signed, and they booted me out into the cold darkness. The next time, I had to remove my belt and shoelaces and spent the night in the cells. The desk sergeant and I became familiar, but not in a good way. I usually turned up with a black eye or busted nose, courtesy of the theater security staff. The last few times, I'd been picked up before the show ended and transported to my evening accommodation. A thin mattress on a cold metal bed and a cold metal toilet. Solicitors became involved, and I was fitted with an electronic tag and warned. Eventually, common sense prevailed and I gave up. So it took that long for common sense to prevail? Okay. How we'd gone from leaning our foreheads together to a restraining order in under 3 months evaded me. As I sat cogitating in my Perry Flowers room, I knew for sure that whenever Lucy wasn't in my life wasn't worth being in. I could feel the resentment and injustice the 23-year-old me still felt, shocked at how everything had fallen apart around him/me in such a short time. I didn't know if it boiled down to her denying me a child when, ironically, I had done that to poor Lisa multiple times now, which did give me a new angle on her feelings. Beyond that, however, I think it came down to the fact that Lucy had told me. She didn't need to. It felt unnecessary. Should couples tell each other everything? I don't know. But based on this example, probably not. Ignorance really can be bliss. I know her motivation had been true and beautiful, like her, but she'd also carried the burden of that truth for a long time alone. I'm pretty sure there had been an element of unburdening going on. But who else could she have unburdened to? Plus, I truly loved her and should have been able to accept and share that burden, but I didn't. I can understand it, but tempered by the multiple trips down my own particular and personal rabbit hole, looking back, all I had to do was forgive her, and I didn't. Couldn't. And that was a very interesting and sad end of chapter 15. Huh. Doesn't seem to matter what timeline this guy's in. One thing seems to be sure. He's never getting out of Perry Flowers. At least, not yet. Let's see, we're on page 122. So we're just more than a third of the way through the book, because it's 313 pages. So, call it 104 pages for a third, and we're at 122. So I feel like there has to be a twist coming up somewhere soon, right? There's been a lot of, revisiting the timeline, finding troubled areas of his life where the switches are, as they call them. But I feel like either, well, the whole timeline thing's a bit confusing, but either one of the switches is going to go in the opposite direction and it's going to get worse, or maybe, gosh, I don't know. How do you, I don't know. I'm nailing this. I can't tell. It's so difficult to understand. I guess my point is, I feel like something has to happen. Like something's gonna give at some point. There's gonna be a change in direction. It's not gonna be constant with this back and forth of, oh, life sucked when I was 28 years old. Let's go fix it. And then we learn some more. It's gonna change eventually, right? I mean, it kind of has to. I don't know. That's just what my gut tells me. All right. Let me just get a gander at how long the next chapter is. Okay, it's not too bad. All right, we're going to read one more chapter. Then we'll take a short break. Yeah, me neither. Stump Mama's mama. I don't have a clue. Luckily, we don't have to guess. We can just find out. But we're going to do one more chapter. And then I'll take a short break. And then for those that are interested, meet me in the events voice room of Stump Mama's Discord. Exclamation 4th if you're not in there already. And we're going to jump into Fourth Wing tonight. We're going to start that journey. Okay? Okay. All right, let's do it. Chapter 16, page 122. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And yes, we all just sang the song. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Okay, got that out of your system? Good. Me too. All right, here we go. All the money had come from the shares, and even despite making some poor investment decisions like investing in a building project in Dubai that went bust, I had plenty. I also had a rewarding job. I wrote technical copy for car makers, engineering firms, and white goods manufacturers. For anyone who needed an idiot's guide put together for consumers to refer to, I'd become the go-to guy. He wrote manuals. I ran a limited company with myself as the sole employee/director, and felt proud that I'd achieved something professionally that didn't involve hiding from creditors or working in a bookies. Self-respect was a new emotion for me, and combined with a healthy amount of self-respect and self-discipline, big changes had certainly been wrought, despite my failures with Lucy. I couldn't help but smile. Despite losing Lucy, undoubtedly all my own fault, I had at least learned from my mistakes and made myself a life. A good one, by all accounts. I'd met Hannah at a local book group I'd joined, mainly to get out of the house. Being self-employed and working from home turned out to be quite a lonely and isolating experience. I can attest to that. Working from home 24/7 can be a bit isolating at times. My simple brain said, "You like books. Join a book club." Hannah wore her dark brown hair short. Her face revealed 2 perfect dimples when she smiled, and her hazel eyes were flecked with green. She possessed a fit persona that she worked hard on maintaining with a running and gym work. As a teenager, she'd been a gifted middle distance runner who'd made the England reserve squad for the Commonwealth Games. A recurring calf injury eventually put paid to any chance of her being a professional athlete. Athlete? Okay. Athlete with an L. But she remained svelte. I haven't heard that word in a long time. Her motivation had been behind me in developing and maintaining my current fitness schedule. While Hannah didn't look like a bookworm, she managed to read her way through 3 novels a week. Sheesh. We sometimes didn't make love until she'd finished her latest book, and I'd taken to arranging my conjugal visits. Well, that's how it felt. Between novels. It gave Between the Sheets a whole new meaning. Badumts. All this stuff had appeared in my head and felt real and unreal at the same time, like living inside some weird US science fiction series. Hannah, sexy, funny, and her book obsession apart, was brilliant company. So why didn't I love her? Well, the answer to that is easy. Lucy. Even though in this timeline she's with someone else and I have no chance of being with her again, my stupid psyche won't accept this and hankers after what it can never have. Recently, my spirit and personality had sagged, which is why Hannah encouraged me to send in a sample of my DNA to Perry Flowers for this project. Perry Flowers, here we are again. She read about it in a magazine. Sam, she said, turning the page around for me to read, look at this. It's a study of depression. I'm not depressed, I countered. She tilted her head to one side and raised her eyebrows in the way she did when she wanted me to know she disagreed with me. She probably looked a lot like this. Not yet, but you're on your way and they want to catch people before they fall down the slippery slope. At least, that's what it says. I complied and duly sent off the sample, and yes, this time I wasn't wheeled in by a desperate social worker. I applied, got accepted, probably due to my incredibly damaged DNA, and walked in all by myself. Well, walked in from the car park at any rate. I wondered what my poor, put-upon social worker Sally would make of all this. The doc did treat me differently this time, as a bona fide volunteer, not some sad sack at the end of his tether. The reason for that, of course, had been completely down to the doc's treatments, though she obviously didn't know that, and I couldn't tell her. It did give me an idea, though. I had a session the next day with Dr. Ramos, but my follow-up with the doc had to be postponed as she'd gone off sick with food poisoning. I kicked my heels for a few days before she felt well enough to return, and requested a meeting with her before we undertook any more procedures. In the previous versions of myself, I doubt she'd have agreed to meet me like that. I sat in her office, wondering how to frame my request. It would be awkward, but it felt to me like something I had to do. So maybe this chapter is the kind of the wrinkle or the difference, the switch, the change in direction that I was talking about. I hope you're feeling better, I offered as an introduction. Much, thank you, but I'm guessing you didn't want to meet to discuss my health. No. Now, I know this will sound off and it may not be allowed, but I've been wondering if it would be possible to meet up with any other people who have been undergoing this. I paused to find the right word. Experimental treatment? I'd just like to compare notes with them. The doc sighed. Patient confidentiality is paramount in our programs. What exactly do you want to compare notes about? I might be able to give you some details without breaking any ethical codes. I needed to tread carefully. She wouldn't remember our conversation about the girl who thought she'd saved her sister. It feels like things have changed a lot for me since I've arrived in here and started the treatment. I feel so much better, and I wanted to, well, I guess I wanted to see if I'd continue to provide long-term benefits. Talking to someone else who's been through it might help. The doc peered at me. I haven't noticed any huge changes, Sam. You seem very similar to the day you walked in here. I remembered that version of me, and my multiple versions of me were a million miles apart. I know, but I really do feel a lot better. And do you think there comes a point where you feel as good as you're going to feel, and any further intervention becomes unnecessary? If I could compare notes with someone who had already completed the program, then I might be able to judge when that would happen. A shaky excuse, I felt, but the best I'd been able to come up with. The doc tapped her pen on her pad. The questionnaire you completed prior to coming here stated that you suffered frequent mood swings. I had no recollection of completing a questionnaire. Maybe that memory had been lost or hadn't appeared yet. I wondered how long it took for my cognitive processes to fully embrace the new timeline. Excuse me. I also worried that my brain might run out of space like a computer's memory. Perhaps mine was nearing its capacity and I didn't think I'd be able to simply upgrade my storage limit or offload things to the cloud. Mood swings. I suppose that might be true, especially after the mess I'd made of things with Lucy 16 or so years ago, but it didn't sound like something I'd put on a form. I shrugged. Well, I suppose they may be a reflection on how I hadn't been dealing with life particularly well. The doc frowned. Sam, I'll be honest with you. Your genome is one of the most damaged we've seen so far, which is why we decided to invite you onto the program. As you know, the treatment is experimental and controversial, but when we first met you, we thought we'd made a mistake with the genetic testing and ran it again. Why? She puffed out her cheeks. Well, to put it bluntly, we expected you to present as a complete basket case, with no social skills, almost unemployable, and displaying a lack of self-worth and poor self-esteem. But you are a successful man with a partner and a business and come across as intelligent and well-rounded. Given the trauma you've had in your past, this is something of a revelation. If she only knew. So far, I've had, 3 treatments with the GPC? Yes. Yeah, okay, that's 3 treatments, and as you know, I'm always a little confused when I wake up. Each time have you noticed any subtle differences in my appearance or manner? The doc pondered my question. Appearance. Geez, this was complicated. Nothing major, I lied. Just like maybe, I don't know, increased muscle tone or fewer wrinkles around my eyes or something. Jaeger smiled. This isn't a cosmetic surgery facility. If the GPC had properties like that, I'd be taking it myself. Fair enough. Okay. What about mental sharpness and an improved outlook on life? Is that what you've experienced? Given I'd come here in an uneducated, smelly, fat lout and now had an English Lit degree and ran my own company, I'd say that qualified. I nodded. Yeah, I think so. Well, by removing the anomalies of your genetic record and freeing up those particular proteins to do their job, so to speak, I suppose this may have had some effect on your overall well-being. After all, that's what we're hoping for. But you presented to us as reasonably well-adjusted to begin with, so in your case, any changes will be subtle. If only she knew. Let's suppose I'd been what you'd expected to be. Lacking in self-esteem, unable to look after myself, overweight with poor hygiene, etc. What changes would you expect in an individual like that? I could see the wheels in her head going around as she thought about my question. I suppose we'd expect more recordable improvements. Removing the anomalous emotional markers for such an individual would bring about changes in behavior, self-worth, confidence, and the ability to make decisions based on logic. We'd also expect them to be able to assess the consequences of their decisions with understanding and foresight. So, what you're saying is that if I'd been obese, then by removing the switches that made that behavior part of my psyche, I'd lose weight? She nodded. Probably, over time, with proper diet and exercise and the right mindset. Also, would you expect a person who has lost out in life to be able to go out into the world and live well, attract a partner, and undertake a meaningful career? That would be my hope, yes. And much quicker than we'd expect that to happen using conventional treatments. The GPC concoction. What's in it? That I can't discuss. Okay. My dilemma here, Dr. Yeager, is that I can feel the subtle changes you have alluded to, but I have nothing to compare it with. You've got your notes from previous patients and therefore have some way of making a comparison. I don't. That's why I wanted to talk to someone who has already been through it. I didn't think my entreaty would be enough, but she surprised me. I can't promise anything, but I'll speak to a couple of our previous participants and see if they'd be willing to talk to you. I need to contact them every so often for a follow-up anyway, but it will be entirely up to them. If they say no, then that's the end of it, I'm afraid. Better than I expected. Thank you. She nodded, and as I got up to leave, asked, "There's something you're not telling me, isn't there?" Sharp cookie. There was so much I hadn't told her, couldn't tell her. I had to give her something. You're right. I have absolutely no memory of filling in that questionnaire. I left quickly before she could respond. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Chapter 16. I think Chapter 16 is the catalyst to the pivot point in this story. That's what it feels like to me anyway. But I like it. I think it's pretty cool. So when we pick this up next time, we're going to go from page 130. So not quite halfway to the book, but we've definitely put a good dent in this. And I never want to rush through a book, but I'm eager to see what happens. The dilemma, I tell you. The dilemma. I need to reach back out to NFV as well, Not for Vanity, who generously helped get me this book. Or not get the book, but get me in touch with the person who wrote the book. So, I'm hoping we can find something else. So we'll have to wait and see. Alright, but in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna raid out. Because here in about 10 minutes, we're gonna start Fourth Wing in Discord, okay? So we're gonna go say hello to my buddy, Mr. Thomas. Assuming I can type. All right, there we go. Thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I hope you have enjoyed this book. I hope you've enjoyed the stream, the calm, the chill. And like I said, we're going to continue our reading adventure in a different book in Discord because I can't read it on stream. Otherwise, I would get my hand slapped very hard, and I do not like that. So, thank you for being with me. Thank you for hanging out. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And as always, have a wonderful night.